For this episode of The Best Parts, we're talking all things Daredevil, the high-flying, hard-fighting devil of Hell's Kitchen. From the comics to screens both big and small, we've got you covered on the man with no fear. So, grab your spandex and your billy club because this is Daredevil, The Best Parts. True believers, that's the term for hardcore Marvel fans, probably know that Daredevil was created by Stan Lee, Bill Everett, and Jack Kirby back in 1964. And in a world filled with quippy superheroes like Spider-Man and Iron Man, Daredevil adds a little grit to the hero lineup. Daredevil, aka Matt Murdock, grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. His mom was a no-show, and his dad was a washed-up boxer who was murdered by the mob for refusing to throw a fight. Plus, when he was 9, he was blinded in an accident by radioactive chemicals. With no family, he ended up in an orphanage. But it's not all doom and gloom for young Matt. Enter Stick, his rough, tough, no-nonsense mentor. He's basically a foul-mouthed Yoda. Stick was blind too, and taught Matt that his disability can in fact be a gift. Because even though the chemical spill took Matt's sight, all of his remaining senses were heightened to superhuman levels.
I can hear your bones shift when you breathe. No grinding means nothing's broken.
So even though Matt's life seemed like it was on the downswing, all he needed was a little tough love and guidance to nudge his future in a positive direction. A chemical accident grants an abandoned teenager superpowers, and he goes on to use his training by a ninja master to defend New York? If that sounds a little like these guys, that's because the Ninja Turtles were totally a play on Daredevil. But enough about the reptiles. The nuclear chemical spill gave Matt radar sense, the coolest power of all. It works like, well, a radar. Daredevil's radar sense bounces off of objects and allows him to navigate without his eyes. He can detect and hear heartbeats, which gives him the ability to tell when someone's lying. It doesn't replace his sight, but it comes in handy when he needs to land a punch. There's no denying that Daredevil's blindness is a huge part of his story. And here's a fun fact. His show is the first Netflix series to offer audio description in its episodes for the seeing impaired.
The passenger door is flung open as Fisk, face twisted in rage, yanks Anatoly from the car and flings him down.
So Matt, blind but well-trained and in possession of cool powers, decided to dedicate his life to fighting injustice. Daredevil hit the books and went to law school, and eventually started the law firm Nelson & Murdoch with his best friend, Foggy Nelson. He's even defended vigilantes in court, like the Punisher. We all know superheroes can throw down in a fight, but Daredevil's not afraid to throw down some habeas corpus, too. However, Matt soon realized that the law didn't always bring bad guys to justice. That's when he took the law into his own hands, making Daredevil one of the few superheroes who fights crime both in and out of tights. And boy, does he fight. The Netflix series has some of the best fight scenes ever to be put on television. Not only is he incredibly acrobatic, Matt also has a specially made billy stick, which he can also use as a grappling hook to swing from rooftops or bind his enemies. One thing to keep in mind, aside from his heightened senses, Daredevil isn't indestructible, which means when you punch him, he bruises. All of his fights are knockdown, drag out, and sometimes, okay, most of the time, his wounds are pretty visible. Even though he's often banged up, there's no hiding the fact that Daredevil is quite a handsome devil. Needless to say, he's had a lot of romances over the years. There's Karen Page, his administrative assistant. Their whole vibe is very will they, won't they. Then there's Claire Temple, the night nurse whose patients always seem to have a mask or superpowers. Like any good love story, Claire found Daredevil severely injured in a dumpster. She helped him recover, and they even shared a kiss. And then there's Elektra. Elektra Natchios and Matt met while in college. They had the typical bored rich girl meets poor city boy love story. If you subtract the fighting, murder, and Elektra being a bloodthirsty assassin destined to lead an army of evil ninjas. Love. Unlike Claire and Karen, Elektra wants Daredevil to embrace his darker side. Matt knows she's no good, but he can't resist her, and neither can we. Romance is one thing, but every good hero needs a good villain. And for Daredevil, that villain is the Kingpin himself, Wilson Fisk. The Kingpin is a crime boss who has an iron grip on Hell's Kitchen. He controls the police, the politicians, and the gangs. To the general public, he's a wealthy businessman. But underneath that shy demeanor lies a ruthless killer and criminal mastermind. How do you bring a man to justice who controls everything? The Kingpin isn't the only problem in Hell's Kitchen. There's also the mysterious Hand, a clan of ninjas whose goal is to release Black Sky upon the world. Who or what is Black Sky, and what does the Hand want with it? And how is Daredevil going to work with Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and Jessica Jones? Whatever happens, the true believers have a lot of Marvel TV headed their way. Daredevil's a guy who overcame some pretty big obstacles to become a hero. He's willing to sacrifice his body and soul to protect Hell's Kitchen. And although his senses are heightened, he's otherwise completely human and normal. That makes his challenges, triumphs, and failures even more relatable to his fans. What's your favorite thing about Daredevil? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll be back here next week talking about our favorite stuff and the best parts. Thanks for watching.